If the entire Marvel universe has been recreated to emulate that of a DC universe, where are the X-Men? Welcome to the Comicstorian channel, where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations of the panel sex and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be doing some more of the Heroes Reborn tie-ins. So, for some reason that we don't know, but for some reason involves Mephisto, the Marvel Universe has been completely changed. Steve Rogers was never discovered in the ice, and therefore the Avengers were never created. So this world needed superheroes, and in the Avengers' place, we got the Squadron Supreme. They are basically Justice League analogs in the Marvel Universe. But you can't do something like that and not change the entirety of the universe. So what they've been doing over at Marvel is releasing a series of one-shot issues telling us the other stories within the Heroes Reborn universe. And today we're going to be covering Magneto and the Mutant Force, and we're going to be covering the Young Squadron. So let's start with the first comic on our list here, Magneto and the Mutant Force. Emma looks out as the wall crumbles, revealing Magneto and his mutant force. "Come with us, I'll explain on the way." But Emma shakes her head, explaining that there is no need, that she saw everything in their minds when they stepped into the cell. She saw the battle with the Squadron Supreme when the mutant force led a protest against the mutant registration bill. She saw Charles Xavier cut in half by Power Princess. She saw Magneto crippled by the woman moments later. She saw Rogue attack the Skrull named Skymax, held him for too long and absorbed all of his powers and memories in revenge of him killing Mystique. And she knows that Magneto has tried to take Charles' place, gathering mutants to a safe haven known as Island M. But it was 3 days ago that Magneto sat in his study. His head bowed as he heard a voice in his mind, and he felt hope once again. "Charles!" he gasps, and Emma stands from her bed. "This jailbreak has assuredly alerted the Squadron to your existence. For a daydream?" she asks Magneto. But number 1 and number 2 shake their heads, and one explains that she heard Xavier in Magneto's mind. This mission will help mutants be less scared. The giant and his comrade step back through the hole that they blew into the wall, but suddenly a gunshot echoes in the room and the duo mutants fall to the ground, their shared mind once destroyed. As the mutant force steps outside, they're greeted by the Phantom team, armed with weapons that can't be manipulated by Magneto and psychic blocks that can't be affected by Emma. "No problem, Frost. Some of us fight with our hands," Frenzy shouts as she leaps at the soldiers. The mutants launch their attacks at the guards, trying to fight them off, but finally Magneto controls the metal of his chair and sends the shards stabbing through the Phantoms. As Emma helps Eric off the floor, she points out that the Squadron will be here shortly. "So let's get to work," Eric tells her. A short while later, the mutant force has returned to Island M in the Bermuda Triangle. Emma looks over at the island before stepping back into Eric's study. She looks at the gathered mutants, telling them they will have to go deep into Eric's mind to find Charles. "If we find Charles, we will be at the whim of one of the world's most powerful telepaths, defending himself like a wounded tiger," she explains as they all take a seat. "We all know the risks. Sabra, keep watch until we return," Eric tells her. And the mutants all lean their heads back as Emma begins to work, and in a blink of an eye, the study has disappeared and the mutant force stands amongst the ruins of a civilization. "Emma, I've never seen this place. What's it doing in my mind?" Eric asks as he looks around at the destruction, and she looks around, explaining that they are in the outer boundaries of Xavier's mind. "Clearly, he's been redecorating," she whispers. Eric is shocked, wondering how they couldn't have noticed Xavier was there, buried in his mind after his death, and Emma looks at him. "Charles chose this moment. Some part of him is ready to be saved," she explains. Rogue looks around, finally beginning to recognize things. This is Power Princess's home, Utopia Island. Suddenly, from the rubble, skeletons begin to arise to combat the mutants. "The professor nuked her people inside Mag's head? She bisected him. If it were me, my revenge would be twice as legendary." Emma nods, realizing that Xavier is lashing out with his mind, the mutant force moving to fight against the utopian skeletons, and Rogue uses her Skrull powers to shift form and lash out, but she is stabbed from behind. As she screams out in pain and opens up her eyes, she is shocked to find herself in Eric's study. "Rogue, what's going on in there?" Sabra asks, and quickly Rogue explains what happened and how she woke up, when suddenly the proximity alarms begin to blare throughout the mansion. It's a good thing you did, Sabra tells her, explaining that Hyperion and Power Princess are on Island M, and right now Magma's trying to hold them off. If we're lucky, we got minutes, she explains. But back inside of Magneto's mind, he asks what happened to Rogue as they continue to fight. Suddenly, the ground quakes and cracks beneath their feet, and the team begins to fall through the air. They land on the grounds of Xavier's old school, where he taught his first 5 students, those that would become the Mutant Force, and they look up seeing statues of the first students standing before them. Charles and his child soldiers. Emma sighs, and Jubilee moves past them to the door of the inner mansion. Outside, the mutants are doing their best to hold up Power Princess and Hyperion. Reaching out her hand, Jubilee shoots sparks into the door, when suddenly it explodes, showering Jubilee with flames, sending the team flying. Meanwhile, Frenzy is diving to protect Eric and Emma, but when they look up, both their fellow mutants have disappeared as they gasp awake in the real world, the sounds of battle and destruction reaching their ears. Inside the mansion, Emma and Eric discover a large version of Hyperion. In his hands lies the body of Charles Xavier. Charles, it's him. After all these years. Eric whispers, and Emma looks up at the body, which is still cut in two. Indeed. And his state raises an intriguing question. Which half of him have you come for? She asks. Eric looks at her, ordering her to step aside so that he can save his friend when he failed him before, but Emma's words give him pause. This monument to his killers is his final defense, and sure to be quite dangerous. Charles came to you to heal, and once freed, he'll need someone he trusts, and I've been known in rare moments to be prickly. She tells him as she sends a psychic blast to cut through the image of Hyperion. The blast kills her, and Emma snaps open her eyes in the study, awake in the real world as she hears the sounds of destruction and walks out onto the balcony. Oh, you've started without me, she whispers, and she looks down at the mutants fighting against the members of the Squadron Supreme, transforming herself into her diamond skin. Hyperion and Power Princess! Finally, a chance to voice my concerns with my former hosts, she whispers before leaping down, and in his mind, Eric moves through the rubble. Look what's become of you, old friend, he whispers as he finds Charles' body. Eric! Charles gasps, and outside, Emma leaps into battle, cracking Power Princess across the face. Sorry to keep you waiting, Princess. Your queen has arrived, she snarls, and above them, Rogue has shifted into a scroll to fight against Hyperion. In his mind, Eric leaps over Charles, apologizing for not being able to save him before. He explains that he has done everything that he could, but his anger has not been enough. We need your heart, he tells his friend, but Charles looks at Eric, explaining that compassion wasn't what kept him alive all these years. Your anger did that. I survived as a broken idea in your brain. Only the master of magnetism can knit me back together. Charles gasps, and Eric holds out his hands, beginning to fix his friend. Then why have you called me here? It can't be this simple. But suddenly Charles reaches out, grabbing the sides of his head, a deranged look appearing in his eyes. It's not that simple, Magneto, but it will be painful. He smiles, smirking. Outside, the mutants continue their battle against the Squadron, but Hyperion bellows in rage, tossing them all aside. This doesn't have to happen! You could have taken what you were given! He tells the mutants who fall around him. As the rocks hit him in the side of the face, he turns to see all of the mutants of Island M have gathered there. They are throwing rocks. They are doing all that they can. They are standing against the mightiest man on the planet Earth. You fight against the mutant force. You fight a whole species. Inside of his mind, Eric is feeling Charles draining the energy out of him. You're not Charles! He gasps, and the man smirks again, just wearing him like a suit. He explains that he felt Charles' death, that as a sword cleaved through him, she sent her mind over into Eric. Charles didn't escape death. I did, yet I spent years recovering from the trauma. Then I called and you came. Your friends tried to warn you, but I knew you'd be so desperate for Charles Xavier to be alive. You pressed on, brave and stupid. This was never a rescue mission. You fell into a trap, Magneto. Outside in the real world, Hyperion slams his fist into the ground, sending the mutants flying. The mutant force get back to their feet, jumping at him to bring him down again, and Power Princess turns, grabbing Emma by the throat. Jubilee appears, shooting sparks into Power Princess's face. Hyperion throws the mutants aside, hitting them with a nuclear vision blast. Finish this, Zarda! Spectrum's on his way to clean up the scene, he orders her. But suddenly they begin to disappear, their bodies disintegrating into atoms. They both scream! And they're suddenly gone. The mutant force looks around, shocked at what happened. Well, somebody's been hiding some talent, Emma notes as she dusts herself off, and Rogue shakes her head. No one here could have done that. They all just burned away, she says. When suddenly there's an explosion and a bright flash from Eric's home. This isn't over. Frenzy gasps and a familiar figure appears before them and Jubilee's eyes widen in shock. Professor, did you just blow up the Squadron Supreme? Those ants have been deposited among the outer planets. It'll be weeks before they can return. Weeks I do not intend to waste, the woman tells her. Jubilee's eyes widen. You're not the professor, she whispers, and the smoke clears as the woman explains that she's Mutant Kind's new alpha. Tearing you free of the dark with the power of a star gone Nova. Cassandra Nova tells them as she floats over their heads. And there you have it. That's what the mutants are doing in this new universe. Interesting, and I'd love to see more, but sadly, Heroes Reborn is only this quick miniseries. Now let's have a look at the Young Squadron. We have the Young Justice League and Teen Titans, and over in Marvel, we have things like the Young Avengers and the Champions team. Well, what would a kid team look like in this universe? Sam Alexander moved through the Science Museum, amazed at how small their planet was in comparison to the rest of the solar system. Suddenly, one of the walls explodes as MODOK charges into the room, burning through one of the displays, shouting at everyone around him. You imbeciles thought you could keep such a valuable asset hidden in plain sight in this mundane museum. But you were wrong! The Omega Stone is mine once more! He shouts as he pulls his treasure from its hiding spot, but a blast flies through the air, hitting the villain. I knew putting this stone here would be the perfect bait. Stand down, you godforsaken freak, or I'll melt your hide and launch your husk into orbit, Doc Spectrum orders as he charges onto the scene. But MODOK will not be defeated as he uses the Omega Stone to sever the link between Spectrum and his prism. Sam rushes forward. He wants to help his hero, and he reaches out, grabbing the prism, which senses the heroic nature inside of him, and for a brief moment, Sam is granted the powers beyond those of normal humans, and he uses them to defeat MODOK, earning the praise of Dr. Spectrum. A portion of the prism's power continued to course through Sam Alexander, and he became Dr. Spectrum's sidekick, Kid Spectrum. Another young superhero, known as Kamala Khan, got her start working as an intern in a museum in Jersey City. She quickly discovered that the head curator was selling utopian artifacts on the side. And when she discovered this, she quickly went onto Power Princess's website and tried to warn her. Knowing that she had to act, she began to look through the stolen goods and discovered a utopian circlet and bracelet. She charged forward with the magical items, giving her the strength of 10 men, as well as the speed and skill of a utopian warrior. And as the goons were defeated, Power Princess arrived, who was surprised to find Kamala, who quickly gave back the items that she had found. But Power Princess took Kamala as her sidekick, dubbing her Girl Power. Now on to another superhero. Miles Morales was always a fan of the superheroes that he saw on TV, with his favorite being Nighthawk and the Falcon. And after Falcon was killed, Miles decided to use his genius to invent his own costume, taking up the role of Falcon. One night, Nighthawk was fighting against the Scorpions, the heroes on the ropes, and Miles Morales descended from the sky as the new Falcon. The Falcon flies again! He shouts as he and Nighthawk teamed up and took down the villains. And after the supervillains were down, Nighthawk stalked towards the young hero. What in Mephisto's name do you think you're doing? Isn't it obvious? This was an audition! I'm your new partner! Miles shouted with glee. But Nighthawk becomes angry, yelling at Miles. The Falcon isn't just a costume. He was a friend of mine, a friend who died because I couldn't save him. Nighthawk turns and begins to climb the ladder back to the Hawk jet. If I see you in that costume again, I'll tear it apart and dump you in juvenile detention. But Miles knew that he just needed to prove himself to the hero. So he sought out friends, and he partnered up with both Girl Power and Kid Spectrum, and together they formed the Young Squadron. Now the Young Squadron descends from the sky, brought to the scene by Girl Power's circlet, sensing utopian energy. All right, let's get in there and stop them before they cause more damage. Kid Spectrum shouts. Young Squadron, strike! Falcon shouts, and they descend on the Wrecking Crew, a team of supervillains that gained their powers from utopian artifacts, and they fight Power Princess on several occasions. Falcon flips over Piledriver, throwing his Falcon blades at him, and Girl Power launches herself at Wrecker, managing to stop his magical crowbar with her bracelets, while Kid Spectrum trades Energy Blast with Thunderbolt. Suddenly, a bomb bounces into the battle, filling the area with smoke. Falcon, was that you? Kid Spectrum asks as they all begin to cough, but the smoke swirls as a deranged figure charges in. Wrong go, younglings! It's your friendly neighborhood Deadpool! Deadpool shouts as he whirls his hammer, cracking Falcon across the jaw. And I brought my best hammer just for you, Flyboy. No fair, we're fighting the other bad guys. Kid Spectrum shouts as he tries to hit Deadpool with an energy blast, but Deadpool grabs him, tossing him back into the sleeping gas. Here's a tip. Life isn't fair, youngsters, he shouts with glee as he picks up Falcon's body. Girl Power continues to cough, but tries a move that she has seen Hyperion do. She claps her hands together with super strength, blowing the sleeping gas away from the scene. A few moments later, she and Kid Spectrum are on top of a nearby roof. They know that Deadpool took Falcon, and they've got to find him. Kid Spectrum's phone pings and he looks at it to discover an internet blogger named The Whisperer has already posted about their defeat. Girl Power whirls on him. Wait, that's it! So a short time later, Rick Jones, also known as the famous superhero blogger known as The Whisperer, is on the phone about a potential Hyperion story. He suddenly turns around to discover Kid Spectrum and Girl Power in his apartment. You should really get those security bars checked, Girl Power tells him as she drops the bars that previously guarded his window. She moves forward, demanding to know how he's been tracking them, and Rick refuses to answer, but Kid Spectrum leans towards his computer setup. I bet I could short out every one of these with a snap of my finger, he says with a smile. And finally, Rick caves, explaining that he figured out the signal wavelength on Falcon's suit, which is how he's been tracking their movements. If he's in wireless range, I can find him, Rick promises. Meanwhile, over at the nearby amusement park, wakey wakey, your birdiness, Deadpool calls as he slaps Falcon across the face. Where am I? Falcon asks as he comes to, but Deadpool slaps him again. Haha! The question should be, what will your last words be? Falcon is confused about what Deadpool is doing, and the villain stands explaining that he made a promise a long time ago. What is dead is dead. The Falcon is dead, and you are the Falcon. Ergo, I must kill you, Deadpool says as he looks back at the young hero. You're crazy! I'm not that Falcon! Miles yells at him, and Deadpool smiles. Oh, I know, kid. The name has been retired, so to keep my promise and break Nighthawk's heart all over again, I'm gonna kill you, he says as he holds a can of gasoline and a lighter. Falcon begins to struggle, telling Deadpool that they aren't on a bridge. Of course not! That'd be way too derivative. I'm gonna fill this coaster with gas and light it up so your burning effigy does loop-de-loops. That's more my style. He begins to dump the gas all over Falcon, asking for any last words, but an energy blast knocks the gas can from his hand. You're done, you sick weirdo, Kid Spectrum says as he flies in. Deadpool smiles, pulling out his sword as he asks if Kid Spectrum thinks that he can take him all by himself, when suddenly the ceiling collapses on him as Girl Power charges in, punching him. Nope, but I'm not alone, walnut face, Kid Spectrum smiles. He grabs Falcon and quickly frees him from his ropes, evaporating the gas off of him. Girl Power continues to punch Deadpool in the face, asking if he's had enough. He tries to zap her, but the electricity only fries him and leaves her untouched. You had to know that wasn't going to work, Deadpool. It was built to be used against Nighthawk, not super strong lamos like you, he tells her. And in Deadpool's mind, the narrator begins to close out the issue, but he shouts at the narrator, ordering him to stop! Stop closing the issue, we're not done! Who is he talking to? Girl Power asks, and Deadpool looks at the trio, shouting at them, it's all a shame! These heroes you worship, they're not what they appear to be, and you know it! How many times has the Squadron Supreme unleashed violence because they enjoyed it? Horrific property damage because it's the only way they know how to win. Constant lethal force on targets in the name of peace, righteousness, and the American flag. Earth's mightiest heroes extend their powers all over us. They're Avengers with nothing to avenge, he tells these kids. And a short time later, Girl Power and Kid Spectrum stand by as Nighthawk apprehends Deadpool. He stops and he looks at them. I heard you two are running around with that kid who thinks he's Falcon. Do you know where he is? I want to help him, Nighthawk tells them, and the look on his face says that he doesn't want to help at all. They shake their heads, promising to call him if they see Falcon. Good answer, Deadpool whispers with a wink and a smile. As Nighthawk leaves, Falcon comes out of hiding. The trio know that Deadpool is crazy, but what he is saying is right, and Girl Power agrees, but they know that they can't bring the Squadron to justice on their own. But we can still show everyone a better way. We've got to stand for something more than just power. We can't be the young Squadron anymore. Let's be the heroes that we should have always been, Falcon agrees. We're not just heroes. We're champions, Girl Power tells her friends, and they all smile as the sun comes up behind them. You know, that's not a bad name, Kid Spectrum says. Just two more fun stories in the Heroes Reborn universe, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Seriously, guys, I am loving the Heroes Reborn universe and would love if this continues, but we all know that it won't. Maybe if we get enough sales in the comics, we can get it to do its own single book. Either way, guys, thank you so much for your continued support. I really do appreciate it a whole ton. This channel is just so much fun for me to do, and you guys watching these videos to the end, it really does mean a ton to me. It really does. But don't forget to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian. It's how we're able to continue bringing you these videos. Over there, you have more videos than you have here, and we try to talk to you guys more directly. You can also check out a couple of our other projects that I work on for more of a creative outlet, a lot of podcast arms. If you want to hear me talking about video games, look up absolutely PlayStation and Steam Gamers. If you want to hear me talking about all your favorite movies and TV shows, look up absolutely Marvel and DC. That's really it. I'll see you guys next time right here.